Okay, shall we get started? All right, make sure you can see me clearly and also hear me clearly. All right, okay, right. So hello and welcome to our second special lecture on world Englishes. So in the previous lecture, we learned that English is used all over the world and that there are many varieties of English. Today we're going to focus on two of the most influential varieties. Of course, British English and American English. Why these two in particular? Well, simply because they have had a huge influence on English education, dictionaries, films, and the media and so on. As a result, most learners around the world, including Japanese learners, are exposed mainly to these two varieties. So by comparing them, we can gain a deeper understanding of English as a global language. Okay, so as we go through the lecture, I'd like you to think of one question. So which English do you think you've learned at school? Yeah, okay, here. So is it British English or American English? Or perhaps mixture of both? All right, let's find out. So today we'll be looking at pronunciation, differences in pronunciation. All right. So we'll start with vowels and consonants. One of the easiest differences to notice between British and American English is the pronunciation of certain words. Okay. So let's begin with this word, H-O-T. I'll say the word in two different ways. So tell me which one sounds more familiar to you. First one, hot, heart. Well, I said the British pronunciation first. All right. So in most varieties of American English, the vowel is more open. So it's heart. And you can even see that my jaw opens a little wider when I pronounce it in the American way. Heart, heart. Okay, now when I say in British way, it goes like hot, hot. So heart, hot, heart, hot. All right. Let's see some more examples. Lot in American English and lot in British English. Again, we can hear the same pattern. Job in American English and job in British English. Once again, we can hear the same difference. And this is not just a difference found in a few words. It's actually a regular pattern. So here are some more examples. All right. I don't have the time to demonstrate everything today, but something like, yeah, dog for American will be dog, God, and God. And it goes on like this. Right. So, but we need to be a little careful because I don't really mean that every American R becomes O in British English. So let's look at the examples. And for example, calm. Americans say calm, but British people don't say calm or calm for this word. So they also say calm, just like Americans do. Same thing for spa. So I would say the pronunciation is pretty similar. And father and father. Okay, the next word is this, H-O-M-E. And again, I'll say this word in two different ways. Home, 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 home. Tell me which pronunciation sounds more familiar to you. Number one or two? Okay, so this time I said the American pronunciation first. So home, home, and home, home, home. Sounds a little different. So both are diphthongs, that's the same, nijuboin, but they start from slightly different positions. So in British English, O, the vowel begins with the neutral sound, so and then gradually moves towards U. So and then U, O, O. On the other hand, in American English, the vowel begins with the more rounded sound, like O, and ends in a similar sound, O. So O, O. Okay, let's look at a few more examples. Coat for American. I have to use this. Coat and coat. Coat, coat. Road, 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 road. I hope you can hear the difference. Right. So there are more examples like this. Okay, I'm not going to go through everything, but this is, again, the set regular pattern. All right, now let's look at another more famous example. This word is BATH. So I'll say the word in two different ways again. Bath, 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 bath. So tell me which pronunciation sounds more familiar to you. Okay, this time, yeah, again, I said the American pronunciation first. So in Southern British English, this word is usually pronounced with R, R. American English, however, usually has A, A. Let's look at two more examples. Chance, 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 chance. Can't, 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 can't. Again, we need to be a little bit careful here. All right, not every American A becomes R in British English. For example, words such as dad, gas, hand, cap, happy, apple, and so on, they basically have A in both varieties. So some words have A in both British and American English, and of course the actual sound is not exactly the same. However, the difference is small, so we normally treat this as same phonetic symbol. I mean, at least we use the same phonetic symbol for both varieties. Okay, let's move on to another famous example between British and American English. So this time the difference involves the letter R. The first word is this, C-A-R. Okay, I'll say the word in two different ways. Car, 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 car. Tell me which pronunciation sounds more familiar to you. Yeah. This time again, I said the American pronunciation first. So in American English, the R after a vowel is almost always pronounced. In most varieties of British English, however, the R after a vowel is usually not pronounced. So look at two more examples. Door, 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 door. Chair, 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 like this. And of course, there are more examples like this. So park, heart, north for British becomes park, heart, north. So again, this is a regular pattern. So now let's look at another type of R. So R in an unstressed syllable. Right, the first word is this, D-I-N-N-E-R. So, okay, let me pronounce this in two different ways. Dinner, 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 dinner. Tell me which pronunciation sounds more familiar to you. Okay, this time I said the British pronunciation first. Okay, So both varieties have R in the spelling, just like in the last example. But in British English, again, the final vowel is usually pronounced as a schwa. So just like d, n, n in British English. In American English, it is pronounced with an R-colored vowel. So uh, dinner, 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 dinner. Okay. Two more examples. All right. So, fire, American. Fire, British. Fire, fire. Shower, 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 shower. And more example, you can find mother, river, dryer, tire, tower, and power. Again, we can hear a regular pattern. Now let's move on to another characteristic feature of American English. So this is the first word, C-I-T-Y. So first one, city, 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 city. Which is more familiar to you? Okay, I said the British pronunciation first. So in British English, the T is usually pronounced as t, t, t. Okay, in American English, the T between two vowels. So here's vowel and T and another vowel. Sometimes it sounds a little like a D. So CD instead of CT. Another example. Oh, by the way, yeah, some people use different symbol for this, type of T for American English. But we're not going to details. Okay, we use just a voicing mark. So if you see V shape under T, that means T sounds a little like D. Okay. All right. Data, American. Data. 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 Can you hear the difference? This one, sorry, 80, 80, 80, 80. Okay. Here are more examples. Writing, pretty, beauty, item, native, and even the word British doesn't really sound British if you say British. That's how American would say British people. British people say British people, something like that. Okay. All right. There's one interesting consequence of this pronunciation in American English, such as, in case of writer, someone who writes, and rider, someone who rides a horse or motorcycle or whatever. Because what happens is that T in writer is voiced, sort of like voiced. It sounds a bit like rider. Okay, so the first one, writer. Second one, rider. Writer, rider. So there's a difference. There is a difference in the vowel length. The vowel in rider is a little longer. Okay, so let's move on to another consonant. So, N-E-W, I will say, okay, which one should I say first? All right, let's do, okay. Number one, new, 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 new. Yeah, So which one sounds more familiar to you? This time I said the American pronunciation first. So British English, the pronunciation usually includes y sound. In American English, however, that sound is not really there. So look at other examples. Yeah. This one. Tuesday. 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 Sounds quite different. Produce. 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 Okay. And we can hear the same pattern. Okay. Of course, not every difference follows a regular pattern. Some words simply have different pronunciation in British and American English. So let's start with this word. So, this one is probably more common. Schedule, schedule. All right, I think you learned this way. How about this one? British, schedule, schedule. Schedule, schedule. Quite different, right? So which do you think you learn? Which do you think you feel more familiar with? Okay, so another example. More. Leisure. American. Leisure. Sorry, leisure. 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 Sounds like completely different words to me. This is quite famous. Tomato. 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 So which one do you think you learned? So there are other irregular examples like American vase, vase, herb, herb, clerk, clerk, mobile, mobile, route, route, status, status, stuff like that. All right. So far, we have looked at difference in vowels and consonants. Now let's look at another aspect of pronunciation, stress. So in some words, British and American English use exactly the same sound, but the stress syllable is different. So let's start with this word. Okay. All right, number one, adult, 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 adult. Tell me which stress pattern sounds more familiar to you. So this time I said the British pronunciation first. British English usually places the stress on the first syllable on this word, and American English, however, often places the stress on the second syllable. Let's look at another example. Yep. So American, address. British, address. Address, address. Garage, garage. Garage, garage. All right. So here are more examples. Research and research, brochure or brochure, cigarette or cigarette, stuff like that. Okay, so these differences do not follow regular patterns, so you actually have to learn one by one. So you have to use your memory. Now let's do some small experiment. Do you think a single sentence can reveal whether a speaker is British or American? Okay, what about this sentence? I'm not going to read it out loud. So please read it for yourself. So do you think this sentence contributes to, distinguishing different different accent speakers? All right. If you, read the phonetic symbols, you can pretty much see. I'm not sure if you can see it. So let's compare one by one. 6, American 6, same in Britain, 6. Boys, boys. Have, same. Played, played. A few, times, times. So basically both Americans and British, say 6 boys have played a few times. So this sentence contains very few clues. So yeah, I would say not all, but most of the sounds are pronounced in a very similar way in both varieties. At least we use the same phonetic symbols for both. So what about this sentence? Okay. Do you think you can tell whether the speaker is British or American? Let's see. All right. I'll try my best American accent. The podcaster's daughter grow tomatoes. Again, sorry. The podcaster's daughter grow tomatoes. The podcaster's daughter grows tomatoes. British. The podcaster's daughter grow tomatoes. The podcaster's daughter grow tomatoes. Do they sound different to you? Right, definitely, yes, you can tell. So the difference between the last sentence and this sentence is this sentence contains many clues, such as, for example, vowel quality, the R after vowel, the pronunciation of T between consonants, and so on. So let me demonstrate. Again, the podcaster's daughter grows tomatoes. The podcaster's daughter grows tomatoes. Right. So, as you can see, if you can tell the difference between British accents and American accents, depend largely on the word and the sentences. All right, so in this extreme case, there are clues in almost every single word. The sentence makes it easier to distinguish a British speaker from an American speaker. All right, so today we focused on pronunciation difference between British and American English. So remember the question I asked at the beginning of the lecture? Which variety of English did we learn at school? So when it comes to pronunciation, I think most Japanese learners are more familiar with American pronunciation. However, there are some exceptions, I would say. For example, words such as news and Tuesday are often pronounced in a way that is kind of closer to British English. We also tend to pronounce the H in herb, but American says herb. And also, when we talk about Wi-Fi, many Japanese speakers prefer router to router. I don't think I've ever heard anyone saying, ちょっと router の調子が悪くてネットにつながりません. I think people say router. All right. So, in that way, Japanese pronunciation is, sometimes a little British. But in general, yeah, I would say probably more American than British. Not completely. Okay. So, having said that, not every word or sentence reveals a speaker's accents. So in other words, British and American English are much more similar than different. The more similarity than difference. Okay. And although the difference is interesting, speakers from two different accent countries, they usually understand each other without any difficulty. All right. So in the next lecture, we will move beyond pronunciation, and you'll be looking at differences in vocabulary, spelling, grammar, and more. All right, so before you finish, please complete the Google form. So again, the link will be provided in the email I'm going to send you shortly. And I don't think it'll take you more than 5 minutes. So please make sure to submit your answers by the end of tomorrow. All right, that's all. Thank you very sorry. Thank you very much for joining the class again online. See you soon. Have a good day.